Dogs who suffer from separation anxiety are miserable, and so are their people. Incessant barking disturbs the neighbors, and frantic attempts to escape the house can damage your place. I mean, your door, your woodwork. It's not pretty. You can learn to spot the signs early and help your new puppy adapt. In case we haven't met, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel. Has anything like this ever happened at your house? Have you ever had a dog who just wigs out when you're gone? If you know somebody who could benefit from information about freaked out puppies and adult dogs when they're home alone, you should tag them. Tell them that this is going to be available on the Assisi Facebook page. So, let me introduce my friend here. This little girl's name is Salem. I think she was born on Halloween. She's about 16 weeks now, something like that. And she belongs to one of our nurses at the Veterinary Emergency and Specialty Center where I practice medicine. I'm residency trained in veterinary behavior medicine with many years in general practice. And separation anxiety, one of the most common things we treat in a behavior practice. And general practicing veterinarians see a great deal of it as well. Dog trainers and behaviorists see a lot of it. And these pets are really, really not happy campers. So we're going to talk about what you can notice in a puppy that might be an early tip-off and how to distinguish that from normal puppy behavior and how to manage each of those things. I've also got a story to tell you about a dog, about a 1-year-old dog who actually did well but came in really, really miserable, and his family just, they were kind of frantic for answers themselves. So, by the way, if you can hear me loud and clear, please hit the wow button. And if you are finding this information helpful, hit the heart button. And tell me you're tuned in and let me know you're here and where you're from. And, Cassie, thank you so much for tuning into this thing. I'm delighted to see you. And yeah, I agree with you. This is, we dog lovers, I'll tell you what. I spoke with Kelly, who's one of our nurses, and I said, I understand you have a young puppy. Would you mind if I borrowed her? Because, my border collie, Miss American, she'll make a cameo appearance here in a few minutes. Well, she's not a puppy anymore. We still think of her that way. But this little girl really is just a kid. And so I picked her up from the hospital this morning where her mother works and brought her home. And she missed her mama just a little bit and cried in the car. And these things are rooted in normal canine behavior. These little guys, when they're kids, they're supposed to call out for their mother when they're hungry, when they're cold, when they feel frightened. They carry their innate behaviors for purposes of survival in the wilderness. And even though they're pets and they're a domestic species and they certainly belong with us in our homes, it's right below the surface what they have to do to survive. So when you get a new puppy and you bring that little rascal home, you have a character that's going to miss its mother and its litter mates, and that's a given. And there's a tendency to hold on to those puppies and take them to bed with you, especially these small breeds that are just darling little things. Little Salem, I know, sweetheart. I know you're very sweet. I'm glad you're here, but I have to take you back. I can't keep you. I would like to, though. So one of the things that we can do that is very well researched in puppies, by the way, is plug in a pheromone diffuser. It's best to keep a puppy away from its people at night so it can adapt to that right away. But a pheromone like this, these are well researched. It's a synthetic analog of a naturally occurring pheromone, almost chemically identical to what a mother dog secretes. The hormone fluctuations in her system that occur right around the time that she delivers the litter activate these glands under the skin, between the mammary glands under the abdomen, and it secretes a pheromone, which has no smell, even to dogs, but it affects their brain. It is picked up by something called the vomeronasal organ, and they has a calming effect. And in fact, these pheromones have been tested in adult dogs as well, and they make a difference. So what I encourage people to do is plug in a pheromone diffuser like this in the room where your puppy is going to stay. And you can keep a puppy in a crate at night. We'll talk a little bit more about why it may not be the best idea during the daytime when you're gone. So what kinds of behaviors are you going to see in puppies? Well, they are going to bark a lot, and you think, well, gee, what am I supposed to do with all that barking? Sometimes people want to reprimand it and tell the puppy, stop that nonsense, because, we don't want to listen to it. Well, the truth is, it's normal behavior. Vocal communication is something that this species does just like we do. And whether it's normal or abnormal, there's no point in trying to correct it or reprimand it. It's an indicator. And if you have a normal puppy who is adapting just fine, has no separation issues, it's going to bark anyway. It really gets my attention when it's continual and when it is accompanied by scratching at the door. That dog is telling you that, I don't care what age it is, that it has a problem being alone. Many times people say, oh, that dog or that puppy is bored. In behavior, we don't use that term because it really doesn't mean anything specific. And what I like to suggest is that we give a dog, I don't care what age, including a little rascal like Salem here, healthy canine-appropriate behaviors to engage in, whether you're with them or not. Well, dogs are predators, they're hunters, and in the wild they eat what they kill, but they don't get that lucky every day. Most of the time they're going to subsist on carrion, dead stuff that they find. Doesn't sound very appetizing to you or I. It seems like with dogs, the more disgusting and old and, ridden with flies that it is, the more they seem to like it. Well, we can give natural foraging opportunities to our dogs, and as they adapt to our lives and living in our homes, we can give them a foraging opportunity to survive in their little minds only when we're gone from home. And, oh, yeah, puppy, somebody that looks like Minnie. I think this puppy should be called Minnie. Look at her. So one of the things I like to encourage people to do is to get a food dispensing toy. This is one of thousands of, well, probably hundreds available. And I've put some canned food in it. There are many of these that are meant for dry food. And if you give this to a puppy, like Salem here or Minnie, they can, especially if they haven't been fed in just a little while, they can tuck right into these things and focus on extracting food, very similar to the behavior they would exhibit in the wild for purposes of surviving on, dead stuff. Of course, you're going to put good food in here. It won't be disgusting. But, you can get this puppy, help this puppy adapt by making it possible to be kind of a normal dog. So food toys are a great thing, and you can start that with a new puppy immediately. Crying, not the same as barking. And when they're crying, that can be kind of a plaintive little thing where, boy, they really need mama. And normal puppies who end up adapting just fine and never develop a behavior problem in their new home, they're going to cry too. But the pheromone diffusers, those are very helpful. And playing soft music, that can be helpful. And visiting the puppy once in a while can be helpful. You don't want the puppy to perceive that it's earning a response from its leader by complaining, though. So it's ideal if you go in and visit the puppy when it has stopped barking, because that's how you reinforce not barking, okay? But we don't accomplish anything valuable by scolding or reprimanding. So we're going to have to work with that. So food toys are a good thing, and again, there's lots of different ones, some for dry food, some for canned. And you can put the puppy's regular diet in it. You don't have to put treats or some other thing that might cause stomach or intestinal upset. Regular dog food is fine. But another problem, and we hear this from puppy parents all the time. Well, this puppy chewing stuff up all over the house. And of course, they reprimand or punish a puppy for that. Another normal behavior. You know how children are, if you've ever had kids or if you've ever been one, maybe you don't remember, but children, we talk about how they see things with their hands, and you hear their parents all the time saying, look with your eyes and keep your hands to yourself. Well, that's almost impossible for them, and that's why we give children toys that they can manipulate and handle, because they have to do it. It's part of who they are. So just like with puppies, we don't say, don't do that normal behavior. We say, here's what you can have to engage in that normal species typical behavior. And with kids, it's their hands, of course, because they have opposable thumbs and dogs don't. So they don't pick stuff up with their paws. They handle everything with their mouth. So a normal puppy picks stuff up, carries it around, chews it, because they're teething, they're breaking in their adult teeth. Well, Don't scold that. Don't punish it. Normal behavior. Give puppies something to chew. And again, these food dispensing toys can be really good for that. Rawhides, marrow bones, uncooked marrow bones can be safe and very healthy for puppies. And I suggest that kind of thing for puppies. I don't care whether they appear to have a behavior disorder or not. They need to engage in normal behavior and not get frustrated. And that's another real problem. Again, rather than calling it boredom, we're going to say, well, if this puppy isn't got opportunities to do what puppies should be doing, that's frustrating as all get out. So we give them something that they can do that's age appropriate and species appropriate as well. Okay? And what about house soiling? Well, that's normal too, until they're house trained. And there are folks who, they want a dog in their life, but they're not interested in a puppy because they don't want to go through all that hassle of house training. Well, I've done Facebook Lives on that too, and it's really not that hard to house train a puppy. But so let's say you've got a puppy, you've been pretty darn successful, and she's not making any messes, except when you're gone. Now that's a problem. When they lose their house training skills because they're freaked out and panicked when they're alone, then we've got a real problem with that. And that can be an indicator of separation anxiety in a puppy. If the only time they cry and bark incessantly or house soil is when they're alone, that tells us we're starting to think about a problem. And it's especially a serious sign when you come home to find that the puppy is tracked around in the stool and the urine because, well, you think, gee, it's just a kid. Yeah, but there's a natural innate behavior of not stepping in that stuff. And so when they're doing that, they are freaked out. And do I recommend setting up a recording device to monitor a puppy? Boy, I sure do. In fact, we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But, well, a lot of people have surveillance cameras in their home. Pretty much all of us carry some kind of a smartphone, don't we? So nowadays, video is pretty easy to do. And if there's no question about it, we need to know what's going on when we're not there. And even if you have a new puppy and you say, I come home and the neighbors haven't complained about barking and, there's been no urine or fecal soiling and I think things are okay. Boy, you want to know anyway, don't you? It's just like people with babies. They have a monitor so they can know what's going on. Well, you really do want to know because separation anxiety is not an all or nothing thing. There can be varying degrees of severity of it. And so if your puppy is distressed when you're gone, you want to know. So when we've got a puppy that we think may have separation anxiety, let's shoot some video. And I'm going to suggest that you go to the Calmer Canine website because there's a great resource on there about shooting video that tells you how to do it and the best equipment to use, and it's very specific, and I found it really valuable, and I'm starting to recommend it to my clients. And the Calmer Canine website is C-A-L-M-E-R, like the word calmer. I don't pronounce the L because I was raised by parents who grew up in New England, and they don't say the L. Calmer? Okay. C-A-L-M-E-R, the letter K, the number 9.com. CalmerCanine.com. And they have a great resource in there about videoing puppies. And you might find that when you're gone, your puppy is asleep like Salem is sort of drifting off right now. And if they're sleeping a lot while you're gone, and then chewing on their food toy or their uncooked marrow bone while you're gone, well, that's a puppy who's adjusting pretty well. On the other hand, some of them are going to be pacing and panting. They may not be crying, so the neighbors may not notice, but pacing and panting and going back and forth, scratching at the door, and not to mention the house soiling. Those can be signs that nobody would notice, but they're telling us that we have a problem. So I'm a believer in setting everybody up for success. I don't care whether it's an adult pet or our children or my clients who I see when they come in with pets with behavior disorders. Let's give everybody an opportunity to succeed as best possible. And so canine leadership really matters. And from the dog's perspective, what they're going to recognize is that its person behaves just as a canine leader would if they lived in a free-living social group. Well, all dogs in the group, and that includes the dogs that we have in our homes and in our yards, they need to get off territory at least a couple times a day to sniff and investigate and read the bulletin boards and post a few messages. Well, we're going to do that on leash. But here's another one. They look at their leader leaving, and they expect their person to behave just as a canine leader would. Now, if you've got a totally well-adapted dog, you can break the rules, and the dog goes, "Oh, you don't get it, do you, person? It's okay, I'm well-adjusted, I'll go along." But if you have a dog who tends to have anxiety-related behaviors, like separation anxiety, and their person does not behave like a canine leader would, it can be a stressor, and it can raise the risk that they actually will have a behavior problem with separation. So my advice to any new puppy parent, say that 3 times fast, is to behave like a canine leader, which is when you're getting ready to leave, you ignore your puppy or your adult dog. And when you walk out the door, you act as though you don't have a dog. And when you come back home, the same thing. Now, you can engage in all the raucous, wild, and goofy play that you like with your dog of whatever age, but like a canine leader would, they don't do what we do when we leave home. We go to our families, kiss and a hug, drive safely, hurry home, all that, right? Well, these little guys, we love them like little children in furry suits, but they're actually members of a different species. And part of that is that they need leadership that they can innately understand. And we don't have to try to teach them a foreign language. We're going to speak dog for them. So make it easier, set them up for success. So you're getting ready to leave, you walk out the door, you don't pay any attention at all. And your dog's going to go, "Well, that feels about right. That seems normal to me." And when you come home, same thing. And after you've been home for 3 to 5 minutes, then have a wonderful time with your puppy. We don't associate any emotion with leaving and returning. And the puppy says, "Okay, that works. I'm a dog. I get it." Okay? And then, of course, as you walk out the door, you drop the food toy on the floor. Initially, you can let a puppy have one of those things to enjoy when you're with her. But once she's got the hang of it, drop it on the floor as you walk out the door and pick it up when you come back. And what the dog learns is that, as I see my person getting ready to leave, good things are about to happen. And you're really getting someplace when your dog hands you your hat and your car keys. Because they're like, "Go ahead, get going, please." Because dogs are big on predictors. And if one event predicts another, they're ready for that next event to occur. So they see you getting ready to go, you paying no attention, the dog goes, "Okay, this works for me, I'm a dog," and whoops, there's the food toy, right on time. And you leave, and the dog spends its energy focusing its brain on surviving. Now you think, "Well, I don't want my dog to worry that they're not going to make it." Well, that's a healthy, entirely appropriate stress, and the real word is stress. They're supposed to go, "Okay, how am I going to survive another day?" Well, what would I do as a wild dog? Well, I'd find some kind of a creature to extract little bits of food, and here's this food toy, and that's what I'm going to spend my time doing. So you're setting your dog up for success by treating it like a normal dog, even if it's just a little tiny baby like Salem here. So let me tell you a little story about a dog I saw recently named Cubby. This is a German Shepherd, male neutered, about 1 year old. And the presenting complaint from Cubby's people was scared of everything. Well, that's a pretty broad general statement, but Cubby was pretty much scared of everything. If he saw his reflection in the window after the sun went down, he would freak out and bark. Noises, just normal household noises, caused him to startle. If it was windy outside, he would startle and get frightened of the wind. If they took him on a leash walk and he saw people, he was okay unless there was something even a little bit unusual, like somebody wearing a hat, or a man with a beard, or somebody with a cane, skateboards, bicycles, that kind of stuff drove him bonkers. All he wanted to do was run home. He never tried to react aggressively. Has anybody ever had a dog like that? If you have, by all means, put something in the comment line and I can help you address that. So here's Cubby, who also had separation anxiety. And they had made the same mistake so many people do. They say, "Gee, I don't want my house getting damaged by this guy," so they confine him to a crate. Well, a dog who is really panicked and anxious about being home alone and is then confined in an even smaller space like a crate, most of them just dig furiously to get loose. And again, you may not notice that unless you have a video. Well, this guy, he was in a wire crate, and he was bending the wires of the crate with his jaws, so his people knew. Well, not only is this dog frantic, and boy, that's certainly not consistent with healthy welfare for Cubby. But the other thing that concerns me from the medical side is that we've known a lot of these dogs to fracture their teeth, and they need root canal therapy or extractions of their teeth. People come home, they find that their dog's lacerated its lips or broken its nails. And if you look at some videos of some dogs who've done this, it frankly breaks your heart. Well, we don't want your house getting damaged, but we also know that these dogs not only can hurt themselves just frantically trying to get loose, but also their behaviors, the drivers of their behavior, the anxiety itself worsens because it gets more intense when they're confined to a crate. So the last thing we want to do is confine a dog like this. One of the things I told Cubby's folks was to install a dog door. So if he's nervous inside, he can go out, and if he gets a little freaked out by wind noises or something, he can come back in. And because he was an adult dog, I told them to feed him exclusively from food dispensing toys and puzzles, like this Twist and Treat. This is just one brand. There are others as the Kibble Nibble. Kong makes a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of different brands. And the best ones for your dog are the ones that your dog likes. So if you get a dozen of them, probably 2/3 of them, your dog's not going to care for them that much, and you donate them to Animal Humane and go out and get some more. And you want to rotate them so they're a little different every day. And you want this dog to be able to focus on doing dog stuff. And being confined to a crate is not normal for a dog. They are denning creatures. But in the wild, they have the choice to get into their den or to get out. There's never a door that's closed that traps them inside. So it's not natural, and it's a problem. A couple of other things that Cubby did was he followed his people around the house. He was over-bonded, and we see that in many dogs with separation anxiety. And you might notice that in a puppy, too. They're crying a lot for you and following you around. That's an indicator that you may be headed for a little trouble. So you want to put some measures in place like food dispensing toys and pheromones. Beyond all that, what I wanted to do was help that little guy succeed every way I could. And I'm going to show you something called the Calmer Canine device that is only approved for dogs over 1 year. So Cubby was just over the line, and somebody as little and tiny as Salem here, we wouldn't use the Calmer Canine. So Miss America, come over here, sweetheart. Jump right up here, and I'm going to pass Cubby off. There we go. Carolyn has him. No, Miss America's right here. And we're lucky that she has not had a problem with separation anxiety, but I have been the parent of 2 dogs in my life who have. Now you look, you need the blanket. All right. Look at that, because Salem's going to feel better. That's her very own blanket. So if you look at Miss America, my border collie, you'll see she's wearing this thing. It might be a little hard to see, but it's this little thing they call a vest, and it goes around the neck, very snug but very comfortable. And there's another portion that goes around her chest, and right on top right here, right behind her head, is this little Velcro patch where we put the Calmer Canine device. Looks like a halo. We would love them to be little angels, wouldn't we? And you push this little button, let me show you, and you push that button, and it starts to flash when it's activated. You can see the light, and it has a little Velcro thing there, and you stick that to that little Velcro patch, and a dog with separation anxiety wears the Calmer Canine twice daily, 15 minutes each time. Well, you could be having breakfast, you could be answering your email, watching TV, the dog just sits here with it. You don't want her running around in the yard with it because it would probably pop off if she ran into something. And after 15 minutes, it turns itself off. It puts out a targeted pulse electromagnetic field, and it makes adjustments to the neurons, the nerve cells, in the fear center of the brain called the amygdala. And excellent studies show that after about 4 to 6 weeks, the great majority of dogs in the group were significantly better. And how did their people know? Well, how did the people at Assisi Animal Health know? And the researcher, Dr. Margaret Gruen, they knew because these people all had video cameras on these dogs. And they had videos of these dogs with separation anxiety at the outset before they had made any changes. And then they had videos after these dogs had been treated with their Calmer Canine twice daily. Many dogs respond faster than 4 to 6 weeks, but I mean, it's easy. Miss America has no problem with it, and I don't use it on her. You're just a demonstration model. She's sort of on the runway because, well, her name is Miss America, so she knows all about that. So we used the Calmer Canine on Cubby, and well, he did much better. Videos showed that of course, they knew when they came home that he was now starting to extract food from his food toys, but he had stopped pacing. Little noises inside and outside the house were no longer making him startle. So this thing was making a difference for other manifestations for anxiety. This is only approved for use for separation anxiety, but we see improvements in other areas with these anxious dogs. In the case of Cubby, the poor guy was so frightened and anxious so much of the time. Well, it made a big difference for him. So sure makes a believer out of you. But it also helped him to have a dog door so he could have a change of venue when he needed it. And also, he didn't feel trapped anymore. So these kinds of things can make a huge difference. And of course, his people, they're lowering their window blinds now so he can't see his reflection. Avoidance of the fear triggers really matters too. So I'll tell you what, separation anxiety can be a very challenging behavior. We see a lot of these cases. Calmer Canine makes a great difference for dogs over age 1 year. But the puppies, first thing you want to do is make sure that you really understand what's going on. So the video can help. Well, how do you know exactly how to determine what you're seeing as a problem or not? Well, if you go to the Calmer Canine website, that's CALMER, the letter K, and then the number 9.com, they have a quiz. And it only takes like 3 or 4 minutes to take this little quiz. And they'll give you the results immediately, and then email you a report that you can print out. And you want to take that to your veterinarian, or if you've got a behaviorist you work with or a trainer who's very good at this stuff, then that is a great tool to help them interpret what's going on with your dog. Whether it's a kid like Salem or an adult dog, you want that information and you want to understand this problem as best you can. And when you take that quiz, the response that you'll get from the Calmer Canine website is that they will give you an interpretation of it right then. But you'll want a custom fit treatment. And again, if your dog's over 1 year, then you can use the Calmer Canine pulse electromagnetic field device. Easy for me to say. You don't need a prescription for it. You can order it right from the Calmer Canine website, and you can start using it right away on dogs over 1 year. I know, honey. So I'm a big believer in it, but I want you to set your dog up for success every way you can. I don't care what age dog, food toys when you're gone, soft music when you're gone, a dog door, the marrow bones are great, but you want those things, you want all the help you can get. Now, here's what's coming up. On Monday, January 27th, that's 2 weeks from today, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, I'm going to be hosting another Facebook Live. It'll be a question-answer on anxiety disorders. Well, that makes up the bulk of the disorders, behavior problems that we treat in adult dogs and in puppies. And so if you want to tune in then, you can save up your questions and have them ready. And it's going to be on the Calmer Canine Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Calmer Canine, CALMER, and then the word canine, the way it's normally spelled, CANINE. And if you'd like to RSVP sooner, by all means, go to facebook.com/Calmer Canine, and you can put your name in there, and they will send you a reminder. Make sure you don't miss it. But if you have your questions saved up, I'd be just delighted to talk with you folks about any kind of anxiety behavior in dogs. Oh, and Alex, how long is it okay to leave a puppy alone? Well, I'm glad you asked. That's really quite variable. And I'll tell you, the very best thing people can do when they get a new puppy is do it when they've got vacation time, so that you can be home for the first couple of weeks if possible. And that way, that little dog can get acclimated, and you can do some trial absences, 20, 30 minutes. We have found that it used to be believed that all of these behaviors with separation anxiety were worse in the first 20 to 30 minutes. Well, now, of course, we have video cameras everywhere. And now we find that almost all of them are worse in the first 20 or 30 minutes. So a trial absence of about that long is likely to show you what's going on. And of course, now you can get things like Nest Cams, which have an app, a smartphone app. And if you have, any age dog, and you're worried that it's going to damage your house, so you're reluctant to leave home with the dog unconfined, you can drive down the street and you want to drive away because the dog can hear the car leave, and check the app. And if the dog's, tearing the house apart, you can head right back. But so in answer to your question, Alex, I would suggest that we start out with short periods of time and do trial and error. Some of these dogs with separation anxiety actually should not be alone until they show real clear signs of improvement on brief trial absences. And in those cases, I recommend that people leave the dog at a good doggy daycare while they're at work, and they can enjoy playtime, horsing around with the other dogs in the play yard, get plenty of exercise. Which, one more point, is that when we have any dog, but especially one with an anxiety disorder, like separation anxiety, if you exercise that dog good and hard before leaving home and give it a chance to defecate before leaving home, both of those, for different reasons, have a physiologic effect on the brain and reduce anxiety. There was one more question here. Yes, and if you're interested, thank you very much for putting that up there about the calmercanine.com. That's the website. So what else do I want to tell people? I think that that's most of the information I wanted to share. And I hope if you have a dog or a young puppy with separation anxiety in your life, that you get the same kind of result we got with Cubby. But I put a lot of the credit on the Calmer Canine. So, Miss America, will you say goodbye to our friends? Because you're drifting off. Okay, well, thank you very much. And if you want to, is Salem sleeping over there? Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you pass me Salem and she can say goodbye to our friends too. The thing with puppies is that you can wake them up from a nap and they'll go right back to sleep. Oh, here she comes. Look at her. Come here, you little cute thing. There we go. I know. There's Salem. There's Miss America. And thank you for visiting, both of you guys. You make these things worthwhile. Nobody really wants to look at a veterinarian, but puppies and adult dogs, well, how can you beat that? Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you'll be back on Monday the 27th, 4 o'clock Pacific, and we're going to talk anxiety, separation, or any other kind we have. I'm Dr. Jeff Nickel.